Good afternoon. I'm Bonnie Bailey, and I am the Deputy Director for Public Health Research and specifically responsible for the biomedical research grant programs. You are attending the Ed and Ethel Moore informational webinar on the funding opportunity announcement for this current fiscal year. I'm sorry, for fiscal year 22-23. Which goes into effect July 1st. Presenting today will be Ernesto Diaz, me, and Cheryl Mosley. If you have questions, put them in the chat and we will answer your questions. This is being recorded and will be posted afterwards on our website. Okay, and with that, I will pass it over to Ernesto.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Like Bonnie said, my name is Ernesto Diaz. I am a grant manager and I'm also the advisory board for Alzheimer's liaison. So my job is to help facilitate the board with the decisions on which applications will get funded. To begin with, I'm just going to start with some fairly brief background on the program. And here, as you can see, it says that the Ethel Moore is annual proceeds designed to support research. And here it is the statute itself, established in 2014 to give $5 million annually to Alzheimer's disease research. I would encourage all those on the calls and those watching the recording to actually go to the statute to read about the program, because it does give you some insight into kind of the legislation's mind when designing the project, as well as a summation of the board, and so you can see which experts are being called upon for which to make the funding recommendation. So it's very good and very insightful reading material, especially if you're brand new to this program. So, like I said, the purpose of the program was to help fund research leading to the prevention of new treatments, options, and cure for Alzheimer's disease by pursuing the following goals. These goals were helped establish by our board as well as the legislature. And one of the key things about it is that it is designed to help not only improve and create new treatment options, but also create the next generation of researchers here in the state of Florida, as well as creating infrastructure to help support those new researchers. So we want to help you build better programs. So that is definitely one of our missions here at the Department of Health in the biomedical research sector. As this important to note says, the FOA is designed to support grants ranging everything from pilot research to more mature projects, and as well as consortium grants from multiple institutions are encouraged to maximum return on results. Like we said, I want to build a better infrastructure, and the collaboration between different institutions definitely helps with that. As well as something the board has been wanting in the past couple of years is to help the underserved population and the diverse population that's here in the state of Florida. We have many ethnic, racial, and underserved populations in Florida, as well as a large senior population. So dealing with Alzheimer's disease from a multifaceted approach is definitely encouraged, as well as something to keep in mind when working and developing research projects. Florida is the first in the nation to include Alzheimer's disease as a state priority in our state health improvement plan, which is known as the SHIP. For those of you that are familiar, I serve on the SHIP as well as Bonnie in different areas to help with the state improvement plan in order to make Alzheimer's disease improvements in the state. So these are the three goals in priority area 1 now, actually. The state health improvement plan is a 5-year program and has just restarted again in 2022. So now we're priority area 1, which is just a semantic thing, nothing too distinct. But these are the 3 goals that we've been working on for the past several years, and we'll continue to work on as we continue on in our work. So that is to strengthen the capacity to address Alzheimer's disease research, assert a competent ADRD workforce through education and training, and enhance support for those living with ADRD and their caregivers in Florida. I encourage you to look on the State Health Improvement Plan and see the kind of goals as well as our objectives with these goals. have some time. And this graph is really designed to show you kind of the nature of the Alzheimer's disease program in terms of applications. We have steadily increased throughout the years with a drop in 2020, but a big spike up again for the new fiscal year. So we had 75 grants last cycle apply, and of that 75, 17 were awarded, a total of $5 million altogether, as well as, for example, we had 3 consortium grants that were funded. So that was very exciting for us, as well as the board having consortiums be a priority for the board. So definitely uptick in that, which was very positive to hear. But as you can see, it is very competitive to get a grant. And so we encourage you to read the FOA so that you can know what to do right and how to avoid common mistakes and things that might disqualify you. For that, I will turn it over to Bonnie to kind of describe the application process.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Let me just reiterate a couple things that Ernesto had said. One in specific, that we do prioritize consortium grants. In the funding opportunity announcement, it'll list out what institutions qualify. There does need to be a partnership of 3, and you can also include with the research institution non-traditional partners, memory disorder clinics, other community-based organizations. Certainly, we are always looking for reducing ethnic disparity, ethnic and racial disparity, as well as participation in rural communities, all underserved areas. Okay. I'm going to go through this briefly. I know it's busy, but let me walk you through it. This is our process. Every year, we, through the annual budget that the governor signs, we have our budget. We know how much we will be able to allocate in research grants. Over the last several years, as Ernesto had mentioned, it's $5 million. The funding opportunity announcement does not change that drastically from year to year, and about 95% of it always remains consistent. So if you want to ever get a jump ahead, if you look at the current year funding opportunity announcement, you'll have almost all the information you need for the upcoming fiscal year. Okay. Our advisory council reviews the funding opportunity announcement annually and make some decisions on updates that are needed. One of the areas in which they make changes to are some of the priority areas, focus areas, and you'll see some of that in a little bit. And the funding opportunity announcement is reviewed and approved by the State Surgeon General. We fund the funding opportunity announcement. We open it, it's posted, we open it for question and answers. First, we begin with a letter of intent. The letter of intent is particularly important for the Ethel Moore because only a certain number of letters of intent will be accepted by any one institution. And also, depending on the priority areas, there's also a cap on the total number of applications. Work with your sponsored research offices to get their support so that you can submit your letter of intent and then go on and submit your grant application. After the letter of intent process, we do an administrative review. Additionally, for the administrative review, we're looking at just that. We're looking at was it completed, was it accurately completed, all the blanks filled in, etc. We are also looking to make sure that one institution has not applied for too many grants in any one area. Now, if you are a lead institution in one application, you can be a secondary or a partner in another grant application, okay? So after the administrative review, then we open up for the grant application. After the grant application, once again, we're doing administrative review, making sure everything is complete. Then all applications go to for peer review. 3 independent peer reviewers outside of the state of Florida review and use the NIH criteria to rank each application. After the three peer reviews are completed, the board looks at the scores, and from there determines the top 25 to 30% that will then proceed to panel. And that is based on the 3 individual peer review scores. So the panels meet, they review the applications one more time. The individual peer reviewers are always part of the panel discussion, and then a final score is given. All that information is compiled and then goes to our advisory board, who looks at all this information and makes recommendations on which applications should receive research grants. Now, they make recommendations, but it is the state surgeon general or their designee who finalizes the grant awards and actually completes the process so that we can send out the award letters and begin the execution process for your grants. All right, grant categories. This is in the funding opportunity announcement. You need to really take a close look at this. As I said before, work with your sponsored research office because not only is there a limit on the number per grant type, but also the maximum number of applications per organization. Work closely with your sponsored research office. All right. The funding opportunity announcement. Let's talk about what's new this year, okay? Let's go to the highlighted area. So developing safety resources is a fairly new area for us and is available for researchers who want to focus on abuse, neglect, exploitation of individuals living with Alzheimer's disease and or their caregivers. All right, education. Services to people with Alzheimer's disease. There's certainly a wide variety of awareness and understanding of the disease by the person who has the diagnosis as well as the family. So this focuses on cognitive impairment, caregivers, those that or maybe haven't been diagnosed yet with Alzheimer's disease, but have other diagnoses so that the progression to Alzheimer's disease is likely. So this is to try to educate as well as to prevent the onset for as long as possible. Under palliative care, which is 133, once again, research that focuses on the education of caregivers or their healthcare surrogates. So talking about the types of care and the improved outcomes through the research of these palliative care and education of caregivers and persons with Alzheimer's disease, so that they can make informed decisions. Genetic therapies, focusing on novel or genetic studies, such as altering DNA, etc. Looking at protective genes, excuse me. And so this is also a new category for us. And I think with all the advances that we have been seeing, I think this is the right time to be looking at this. Okay. And now I'm going to pass it to Cheryl.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cheryl Mosley, and we're going to go over a few administrative items. The department staff are not going to provide feedback on which priority area or focus areas that are best for your research. Additionally, we will not provide any feedback on your proposed research areas or ideas, rather. The Sponsored Research Office has to provide a letter of support for the application. This assures that the approved applications by the institution meet the quality of applications that are eligible. That's just a coordination effort that needs to happen. Organizations cannot submit the same application in different categories. So you want to make sure, again, refer back to the FOA for all of the instructions and make sure that you have touched all the points in there to make sure that you stay within bounds of what is eligible. A principal investigator can only submit one application to each of the biomedical research grant programs. And just as a simple reminder, you know, everyone tries to get in at the last minute to submit. So we want you to be sure to get your letter of intent and grant application submitted before 5 p.m. You know, and sometimes if you're right there at the end, the system will shut down automatically at 5 p.m. So we don't want you stuck, you know, midstream trying to submit. So make sure that you plan ahead to submit in advance so that you meet the deadline. We are currently in the question and answer period. And prior questions are also posted on our department website. So we'll have those posted there for this current period, but also there are some previous years questions that are available. So check there to make sure we haven't already answered your question. One of the things is it's very, very important is that you cannot change the title of your research from the letter of intent to the application. So whatever you submit on your letter of intent must be the same on your application. Also need to use the required forms. For example, our budget forms or the bio sketch. Those forms are found out on the online application, and you can possibly be disqualified if you don't use all of the required forms. You also need to address all questions applicable to your research. So those questions regarding human subjects, vertebrate animals, stem cells, and recombinant DNA must be addressed in their entirety if it's applicable to your research. Okay, our system for processing the applications is called PeerNet. And we'll be using that for all correspondence, forms, reports, amendments, etc. Research staff can be added to your awarded grant folders, just so that you know that in the future, if you were awarded, there's a pre and a post process for your collaborators. And then afterwards, there's a place for contributors. And so those folks that are necessary to participate in preparation of reports or processing items for signature, that type of thing that need to be in the review process have access to PeerNet. Post-execution contacts can be added as well during that time. If you're not funded, you will receive all of your peer review comments, and the post-funding cycle analysis indicates that approximately 30% of the resubmitted research grant proposals are awarded. So it may be a building block type process. If not to be discouraged, if you're not awarded or funded, that there is a good turnaround time for the next year, using those comments and being able to improve your project and resubmit again. So that happens a pretty good percentage of the time. Okay, research participant incentives. The restrictions that were previously in place for participant incentives has been removed. Cash, checks, or gift cards are all allowable expenses. When planning your budget, if you're working with research participants, there will be a level 2 background screen as well as a drug screening that must be completed for all research staff. You can use the grant funds for paying for those costs. Also, travel that is supported with grant funds must comply with the state Florida travel guidelines that are referenced in section 112.061 of the Florida statute. So please refer to that if you need to put travel funds in your budget. That would be best to make yourself familiar with that statute as well. We need for you to plan your budgets by months, not years. And the new forms that have been improved and revised as part of the application process this year, they actually have some tips, if you will, along with the, in the headers, and some distinction between our fiscal year starting July 1, and then these grants will start midstream, like at the end of a fiscal year. You only may have a few months, and that's the case for Alzheimer's, 5 months, because they're going to start on February 1. And that first period would be 5 months running to June. And then you'd have 12 months. And this is just a 36-month example. Of course, if you needed less time, more time, that you would adjust accordingly. But the fourth year would be a 7-month, would run from July 1 to January of 2026. So those timeframes, if you totaled them all up, would equal the 36 months. Again, this is just an example timeframe. But the forms that are out on the application are tailored to the time period. So you would pick that time period that was needed for your application budget. And it hopefully has been adapted for your use this year. One thing I wanted to mention was the statistics from this last year. We greatly improved the process so that the budgets could be reviewed and revised and all in about a 5-day time frame, which was amazing because it had taken much longer than that the year prior. And then also we've been able to move forward with execution in more like a 30, I think the statistic was 34 days versus 137 days 2 years ago. So we've taken some steps that will help you get your project started sooner and have more time on a quicker time frame. At this time, we're going to move into our question and answer section. And so I'm going to turn that over to our moderator to read the question. Hopefully you can utilize chat and place your question in the chat. And then we can, Bonnie will help us answer those questions.
Okay.
So far, there's no questions in the chat. Someone asked, is research incorporating mild cognitive impairment accepted, Alzheimer's disease related early onset, or are these grants solely Alzheimer's disease focused?
Okay, good question. So the Ed and Ethel Moore is specific to focus on Alzheimer's disease. If your research shows the mild work in the area of mild cognitive impairment, once that's diagnosed, excuse me, and then the steps or the interventions to delay the onset of Alzheimer's disease, that would be accepted.
Someone asked,
Okay.
I applied last year, but still have not received the review comments. How can I get them?
Okay, I don't know how that happened. I see your name. I'm writing it down and we'll make sure that you get it. But I thought that they were uploaded for everybody. And so we will send it to you.
If you could also, if you haven't received your comments, email the research inbox that you see on the screen right here with your project title. That can also help us expedite the process a lot faster.
Okay.
So
yeah.
yeah, we'll have those comments sent out to you.
But yeah, very good. And if you add your email, that would be helpful as well. Okay. All right, what other questions do we have?
Someone said, is the postdoctoral fellowship grant a salary-based, for example, for salary support only award, or can the funds be prioritized for the research?
It's an interesting question. It actually goes hand in hand. So the funds are to support a postdoctoral fellow. And most of the time it's the award is to support their salary. However, the funds don't go just to pay for salary. They go to working on a research project within Alzheimer's disease. I hope that's clear. So if you think about the next generation of Alzheimer's disease researchers, okay, this helps to provide the salary, but to work on a Alzheimer's disease research project, building to that body of knowledge. Okay, questions?
Okay, there's another one. In terms of resubmission of a previously unfunded proposal, what is the word or page limitation for response to the review section? Where should the response to review section be located in the proposal? In the very beginning of the research or project plan, and also will resubmission be sent to the same reviewers who previously reviewed the proposal?
Okay. All righty, let me see here. So in PeerNet, which has the online application, it will give you, you'll be asked if this is a resubmission. And if it is a resubmission, it will ask you to outline that which has been updated from the previous year. And then in your in your project plan and your aims, you will identify where new information has been added. You know, maybe there's a specific new aim that is related to the response and feedback that you got from the peer reviewers. So making it clear on what, how has your research study been updated based on the feedback, that needs to be clearly noted throughout. In regards to the same peer reviewers, it is not our practice to send it to the same people. But this is, it also depends on who is actually serving as peer reviewers from year to year. It's not always the exact same, depending on work schedules and so forth. So, but this also reminds me is that sometimes researchers don't want certain peer reviewers to review their work. That is fine. However, there's a section that says, if there are peer reviewers that you do not want to review your application, please indicate their names. That information doesn't go anywhere else except within ORAU, which is the organization we use to identify peer reviewers. Then it is part of your application, which is in PeerNet and that we have access to, but it doesn't go any further than that. And also, we recognize that the total number of Alzheimer's researchers is a finite group, and that you probably have worked together, know each other. And so if you feel like someone would have a natural conflict, it's fine for you to indicate that in your application. We use that information.
Address the word page limitation.
Oh. Let me see.
Alexia, scroll back up to the previous.
Oh, so it was a three-part question. I only answered two. Okay. In each section, it tells you how many characters you have, characters or words. So that will be in each section. Okay, other questions?
Someone also asked, referring to the previous postdoctoral question, if the candidate is looking for funding for a non-existent ongoing project, not looking for predominant salary support, can postdoctoral fellows apply for the pilot award then?
I'm thinking. Okay, so new project. What?
Differ.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, okay, so my first question is, or response is that the postdoctoral fellow is also, the funding is to provide the mentoring within an institution of a postdoctoral fellow. One of the criteria for being able to apply for a research grant is that you have to be a permanent employee of the institution. So an adjunct professor, probably not full-time, and not a permanent staff member at the institution. If the postdoctoral fellow can prove that they are full-time in a salaried or permanent, if they're in a permanent position, then you could apply for a pilot award. However, let's do this. I'd like to go back and take a look at the fine details of the funding opportunity announcement. Even though I've been in my position 6 years, there's always, something that's not asked very often. And that's what this question is. And I want to get it right for you. I might want to also reach out to our general counsel. Once again, we'll do our due diligence, and that means that we'll have to put it in the question and answer section on the website. Okay. So you have my initial response, but let me validate. Okay, more questions.
One question that we actually got in the research box states, I'm a postdoctoral fellow originally from the Netherlands in the US on a J1 visa. I would like to apply for the postdoctoral research fellowship grant, but I'm wondering if I'm eligible as a J1 visa holder.
Okay, I'm gonna need to check on that too. I know that in the funding opportunity announcement, they're very specific criteria for what qualifies. Once again, we're well, we want to fund researchers and their projects at institutions where there will be longevity. But you're specifically talking about the postdoctoral fellow program. And I want to check with general counsel. Okay, so once again, you're going to have to go look in the Q&A section on the website because I don't want to give you wrong information.
And at this time, there's no other questions.
Okay, and these questions will be saved and so that we can refer back to them. All right. I'll just give it a minute, see if there are any other final questions. If not, we will wish you well. Okay, I think that's it. This will be posted on our website for others to take a look at. And you could use it as a reference. If you have questions, send them to the research mailbox. And we will post the answers on our website. The most important thing that I can say to you is work with your sponsored research office. All right, everyone have a great rest of your day and best of luck to you in the grant application period. So long.
I stopped the recording, but there it goes.
So the questions in the chat,
Yes,
they're recorded as well.
I believe so. I think it is a recording and a transcript.
Yeah, because there were a couple questions